You're welcome to the Gavel. I'm Linda Akibe. The 9th Assembly is winding down after 4 years, and the new 10th Assembly is expected to be inaugurated in June 2023. There's a lot of politicking behind the scenes over the positions of principal officers in the Senate and House of Representatives. In the last 2 weeks, some lawmakers-elect have signified interest in contesting for these positions, and during the week, another senator-elect joined the lineup of candidates vying for these positions. Now, in this report, we examine the composition of the 10th Assembly, as well as issues of inclusion and the emergence of principal officers of the National Assembly. On March 7th and 8th, the Independent National Electoral Commission (INEC) presented certificates of return to 101 senators-elect and 325 House of Reps members-elect, whom he declared winners in the February 25th National Assembly elections. The electoral umpire will be conducting supplementary elections to fill the remaining vacant seats. These federal lawmakers will make up the 10th Assembly, which is expected to come on board in June 2023. The 10th Assembly will be a politically diverse National Assembly, as more political parties have made inroads into the federal parliament fielding lawmakers. The Senate will be made up of 7 political parties. This is different from the 9th Assembly, which at its commencement had 3 political parties in the upper chamber, namely the APC, PDP and YPP. The House of Representatives will have more political parties in the 10th Assembly than the Senate. The composition of the 9th House of Representatives at its inception was slightly different, namely the APC, PDP, APGA, ADC, AA, APM, SDP and YPP.
Even when you add the total number of seats for the opposition, that is including the NNPP, the Labour Party and those other parties that are there, APGA, you will still have a shortfall of about 14 seats, meaning that the ruling party still has a controlling majority in the Senate and they will be able to push through some of their legislations in the 10th Assembly. And so you may say that it is not really in the favor of the opposition that they will be able to sway legislation. But what I see that will most likely happen in the 10th Assembly is that there will be some alliance formation between the ruling party and some of the opposition political parties that will be in the 10th Assembly.
However, the diversity in political parties did not extend to women, particularly in the Senate. Only 3 women will be part of the 10th Senate, compared with 9 women at the start of the 9th Assembly. The House of Representatives fared better with 15 women joining the 10th Assembly, compared with 13 women in the 9th Assembly.
I think it's embarrassing. I think we, as a nation, we could have done better. I know that somebody was trying to suggest that women are not voting for women, and I said that's not true, because they can only vote for the women if they're on the ballot. But most of the time, they don't actually get on the ballot. At least by the time they get on the ballot, the numbers have reduced drastically. So really, we need to do something about it.
So far, we have just about 3 senators, 3 female senators, so far. And in the House of Representatives, I think we are having about the same number, 13, so far, declared by the Independent National Electoral Commission. And that should be giving you about 3.7%, 3 percent or less than that of the 460-something seats in the National Assembly, 109 in the Senate, and then 360 in the House of Representatives. And you'll be having just about maybe 15 or 16 women in the entire, National Assembly. It is very poor, and it also shows that men are not yet ready to accommodate women in the process of decision making in Nigeria.
A crucial phenomenon in the 9th National Assembly is a high turnover rate of federal legislators. 70% of lawmakers in the 10th Assembly are new senators, with 30% returning. In the House of Representatives, 68% of lawmakers are making their first appearance in Parliament, while 32% of legislators are returning. For some legislative analysts and keen observers of Parliament, this may pose some challenges.
Because the party is supreme.
Ahead of the inauguration of the 10th Assembly, there has been high-level politicking and lobbying for the positions of the principal officers of the National Assembly. In the Senate, some contenders for the position of Senate President have signified interest in contesting for the top job. Senators Orji Kalu and Jibrin Barau have publicly thrown their hearts into the race, while there are reports that Senators Godswill Akpabio, Dave Umahi and Musa Sani are keen to occupy the position. In the House of Representatives, there are reports that federal lawmakers, namely Idris Wase, Aliyu Batara, Tajuddin Abbas and Benjamin Kalu, are interested in the position of the Speaker of the House of Representatives.
Everybody is waiting for the zoning formula that the ruling party will release, and depending on how they are able to manage all of those factors that influence Nigerian politics, if they manage it very well, then I don't foresee any problem in pushing through whatever, however they want the 10th Assembly leadership, to look like. But if they do not manage their success very well, as we saw in 2015, then we can begin to say that we may likely have a challenge in the 10th Assembly.
The 10th Assembly will be coming on board at a time when the country is coming out of a controversial general election marred by allegations of irregularities, a nation grappling with economic challenges and also fragmented across religious and ethnic lines. The 10th Assembly indeed has its work cut out for it in offering legislative interventions to confront these challenges. We're still looking at the composition of the 10th Assembly and the emergence of principal officers of the Assembly. We had a chat with a legislative analyst, Mr. Chibuzo Okereke, to examine these issues.
This is one of the most diverse assembly we are going to have. But again, that diversity can only make any meaningful impact depending on how knowledgeable the people are, how committed they are to legislative business, and how organized they are. For those who understand the National Assembly, you will agree that that place has the capacity to consume you and take you out of circulation if you don't come with a clear-cut legislative agenda. And when you talk about diversity, I'm sure they are referring to the number of parties that have representation in the Senate and, of course, the House of Reps. Now, we have a presidential system of government, whereby in the National Assembly they seem to cooperate and work together. You won't see much of a party agenda in play, especially because of how the arrangement is structured. For instance, what is the 34 members of the Labour Party in the House of Reps, coming to the 10th Assembly? What is the agenda? Outside their individual constituencies, what is the party going to represent in the National Assembly? And we do voice votes most of the time, so you don't even know those who are saying yes or no. So are we going to have them pushing for electronic voting, that we can say on these issues, this is how individuals voted? And we can even look at exit polls, whether Labour Party members, PDP members, APC members, what are they standing for? And to do that is the only way we can talk about the benefit of the diversity that this offers. And don't forget about the high rate of turnover and, of course, the implication of that for the 10th Assembly.
Yes, I wanted to go into that, the implication, because if you're looking at the 10th Assembly, already we've seen that nearly 70% of lawmakers who will be in the 10th Assembly are first-time lawmakers. And so there's this concern in terms of, are they prepared? Are they well aware of how the business of lawmaking is? Will this have an impact in the nature of lawmaking and how they conduct the activities?
Oh, absolutely. The legislature is not like the executive. It's rule-based. It's based on the standing order of the House or the Senate orders. And therefore, for anybody to conceive a bill or a motion, you have to understand the rules of the House, the rules of debate, whether your constituency are facing challenges and you needed to present a motion. The interesting thing about the legislature, while we talk about preparedness, is that it's not the executive that your SA will go and represent you. By the rules of the legislature and structure, no aid, no matter how brilliant, can help you to move any motion or contribute to the debate on a bill. And this is what is unique. And that is why we talk about preparedness and commitment. It is not a place for people to come and joke. And that is why you find that people stay there and nobody hears about them. And of course, if you are new, you can still make impact if you prepare and you express commitment to these rules.
Look at the state of the economy and even the state insecurity. We are coming into a 10th Assembly, or the 10th Assembly is inheriting a country with deep economic issues. And so when we are saying productivity will be low, for how long? And what does this mean for the economy? What does this mean for the country?
Well, what is happening is also in the spirit of democracy, right? The people have the right to express their democratic right by selecting leaders who are on the ballot. So we cannot totally blame the people for taking away 70% of the 9th Assembly members. A lot of factors contributed to that. The arrangement of our democracy, party leader influence, and the lack of patriotism. And also our Constitution, as you know, the entire National Assembly seats are declared vacant every 4 years. It's not like that in some other crimes. If you want retainership of certain level of legislative memory and experience, you wouldn't declare the whole seat vacant every cycle of election. And that is also an arrangement we are hoping through advocacy to look at how we can keep experience in the system.
At this moment, I am sure that lobbying is ongoing.
Absolutely.
For who, we've seen this happen time and time again, for who will emerge as the Senate President, the Deputy Senate President, Minority, Majority, and also even Speaker, Deputy Speaker, Minority, and Majority Leader. And so, looking at what's happening on ground with the people who have emerged in the 10th Assembly, which direction do you think this will go? Who do you think are the possible contenders? We've heard a lot. Just let's even start from the Senate. The possible contenders. Where do you think the party would put, in terms of which region will it zone it to?
Well, let me start by saying that the legislative leadership and governance is one of the most critical in the legislature, especially in third world countries and Nigeria, where you have big daddy presidency that has the capacity, to undermine the legislature or play cosmetic relationship with legislature. So in the selection of leadership is critical because of also the powers that have been vested on the leadership of legislature, whether House, or Senate. A lot of people have said the Senate president should come from the South East, because in 1999, 2003 to 2007, we had a Southwestern president with a Northeastern vice, with Senate president from the Southeast. Other people have argued, but like I said, these intervening variables are going to be key. Competence of that leader. We must not sacrifice. The legislature is the symbol and spirit of democracy at work, at play. Democracy in action is exemplified by the way the National Assembly is organized. So you must make sure that the person is competent, has patriotic spirit, sees Nigeria as one, and is able to deliver the critical function of the Senate, for instance, because we're talking about Senate, in terms of confirmation of ministers, in terms of confirmation of other appointments, in terms of approval of loans. You can see how the national sensitivity around loans and national indebtedness, the 10th Senate will be burdened by the road to cut our national debt down or reduce the burden because of the amount of money we are using to service a debt, and ensure that our funds go into productive sectors.
You're welcome back to the Gavel. Now let's take a look at some major activities in the Senate and House of Representatives during the week.
Following the Russia-Ukraine war and its resultant effects on Nigerian students schooling in Ukraine, the House of Representatives says the Medical and Dental Council of Nigeria should, in the spirit of nation building, reconsider its position and allow the Ukrainian medical graduates of 2022 in the sixth and final years to write the MDCN assessment examination, just like Ghana and India did for their graduates. This was the position of the House after adopting the report of its Committee on Tertiary Education and Services, Health Institutions and Foreign Affairs on the need to safeguard the academic pursuit of Nigerian youths in Ukrainian medical universities.
The committee engaged all the stakeholders involved, particularly Ministry of Education, Joint Admission and Matriculation Board, Medical Council of Nigeria, which is the most critical government agency that remain adamant in allowing the admission of medical students to conclude their studies.
The resolutions are adopted as the lawmakers urge the affected students to approach universities of their choice and apply to be absolved. The House also calls for the immortalization of late General Oladipo Dia. Lawmakers believe his contributions to the country should not go to the grave with him.
He will be remembered for his patriotism, service to the nation. His demise is a great loss to his family, the people of Ojogolu, Ogun State, and the entire nation, Mr. Speaker. His uprightness, professionalism, patriotism, and statesmanship will be greatly missed.
A moment of silence is held in his honor, and a delegation from the House would visit his family in Lagos. The House has passed a resolution to invite the Chiefs of Defense and Army Staff to appear before the House to, among other things, explain the circumstances behind an alleged attack on a member of the House. This followed a motion by Honorable Macbilla accusing the military in Benue State of assaulting a serving member of the House of Representatives, Honorable Pam Soko. According to Mr. Gbila, the unfortunate incidents happened on Saturday the 18th of March 2023 at a hotel in Boko, Benue State. The lawmakers allege that men of the 401 Division of the Nigerian Army, numbering over 20, stormed the hotel in Nigerian Army trucks and dressed in military uniforms, and ordered all persons within view to move, gather in groups and squat to the ground, without explaining such cruel and inhuman treatment.
The House is also worried that in the course of obeying the Army officer's commands, one of the soldiers accosted an honorable member and slapped him. Also disturbed that despite introducing himself as a serving member of the House of Representatives, the soldier rather poured more invectives. About 20 soldiers pounced on him and others with guns and brutally assaulted him. The House is further disturbed that this same team of soldiers were allegedly responsible for the extrajudicial killings of at least 2 persons in Boko in 2 separate instances on the same day. Most disturbed that since the attack, several media outlets were awash with defamatory reports and images, falsely linking the assault on Honorable Soko to electoral violence. The House resolves to urge the Chiefs of Defense and Army Staff to commence a comprehensive investigation of the incident, ensuring evidence is obtained from civilian witnesses, with the view to identifying the soldiers that were responsible for this mayhem.
The Senate has set up an ad hoc committee to investigate the inability of the Federal Ministry of Works and Housing to collect ground rent accruing to the federal government in states across the country. The resolution of the Senate followed a motion moved by a federal lawmaker, Senator Yusuf, on the need to recover 6 trillion naira ground rent due to the federal government, which is in the hands of some individuals in Nigeria. He explains that as far back as 1992, the federal government built some houses across the country and allocated them to beneficiaries, but there has been no evidence of annual payment of ground rent on these properties. The committee is to come up with a comprehensive data of federal government properties that are sold out to the public under the Ministry of Works and Housing across the country and investigate the activities of the Presidential Investigation Committee on the sale of all federal government properties.
The Senate notes that Section 49 subsection 1 and 51 subsection 2 of the Land Use Act vested ownership rights of the federal government over its land in state territories. The right includes the power to control and regulate town planning and physical development in relation to such land, and by extension, prescribing and collection of any tax, fee, or rate. Disturbed that as far back as 1992, when some of these houses were built and allocated to the beneficiaries, none has evidence of payment of ground rent on their property. Aware that federal government have built and allocated over 2 million houses across the 36 states of the Federation, including Federal Capital Territory. The Senate further aware, with the current revenue challenges facing the country, there is need for government to look into other means of generating income other than relying on income generated by oil to defray expenses.
The list of senators-elect declaring to contest for the seats of the Senate President in the 10th Assembly is expanding, as Senator Sani Musa from the All Progressives Congress APC representing Niger East has announced his intention to contest. Speaking in an interview with Channels Television at the National Assembly, Senator Musa says the North Central deserves the position in the Senate leadership, as the zone has consistently aligned with the governing party and has always given massive votes to the party, as exemplified in the presidential and parliamentary elections. He's also asking the APC to address the issues of religious balancing in the zoning of seats for principal officers of the National Assembly, bearing in mind that the president and the vice president-elect are from the same faiths.
When we have a president-elect Muslim, vice president-elect Muslim, how could you imagine like having a Senate president Muslim, speaker Muslim, and then when you go to the other arm of government, like the judiciary, you will see the Chief Justice of Nigeria Muslim. I mean, it does not actually make a good sense to me to have all the three arms of government in a country where there's large population of two religions. So on that basis, I feel whatever interest, whatever ambition I have, I should also be considerate of others, and I feel the unity of this country is very important, and there cannot be any better time to at least propagate that than now.
So in other words, does this not mean that this actually knocks you out? Because you have signified your intention to run for the position of Senate President. With what you're saying, does this not knock you off, that race, since you're also from the same faith as the two?
As far as my decision is concerned, is that for any reason, if the party, because I'm a loyal party man, if the party decides that, okay, the zoning policy is going to favor North Central states, the presidency will come to North Central states, definitely I will aspire for the Senate presidency. But in a contest like this, if the party looked at what my views are and consider giving other people also their rightful place, I mean, the exigency of this period does not say, okay, it's my right to have it, or I have the numbers. But we are talking about equity, fair sharing. And all about politics, I have said it earlier, is give and take. So we should try as much as possible to accommodate. Once we can accommodate each other, I think we'll be able to get out of the doldrum we are today and move forward.
This is where we call it a day on this week's edition of The Gavel. If you have any views on any of the issues discussed, please email us on thegavel@channelstv.com. Thank you for staying with us, and see you again next week.